You all know by now how much I adore my embossing folders, and well, when they come with coordinating dies, yep, straight into my cart they go. Embossing folders already add such gorgeous dimension to your projects, but being able to die cut those embossed designs just takes everything to a whole new level. It's such an amazing way to bring even more depth and detail into the cards that we create. And today I'm going to use just that. I'll be using a 3D embossing folder which comes with a coordinating die. Now, all of these products are part of the brand new DieCember release by Simon's Stamp. Well, it's truly a die cutting event this month, so let's dive right in, pull out some gorgeous die cuts, and play with all the fun techniques we love using in our everyday card making. I'll be working with the Peaceful Dove embossing folder and coordinating cutting dies today. Now, this folder creates the most gorgeous scene. We have delicate berry details along the bottom and a stunning dove with its wing lifted so gracefully above. Now, the best part, you can cut that dove out with a coordinating die, which makes the set extra special. Once you run that little die cut piece back with the embossing folder, all of that depth and dimension comes to life, giving you the perfect focal point for every card project. And for my sentiment, I'm using the Tag Greetings stamp set by CZ Designs. These are amazing to create holiday tags, but today I'm using them to build a beautiful message for my holiday card. There are coordinating dies which not only cut out those images but also the sentiment. But for our project today, we will be using only the stamp set. I will start by running an A2 size card panel through this embossing folder to create that magical scene on my card front. Now I did go ahead and mist the paper with some water just to loosen the fibers, and once we run it through the die cutting machine, here's a closer look at that absolutely gorgeous panel. Now I did hold the paper with a little washi tape just to make sure that I got the impression where I wanted. And here's a closer look at that beautiful dove details on the bird and as well as the berry detail on the bottom. Using a scrap piece of cardstock, I went ahead and die cut that dove, which we can then add back into the embossing folder to create that beautiful depth and dimension. You can place the die cut pieces back into the embossing folder in whichever direction you want. Personally, I like my focal point to have those crisp, raised, embossed edges. So I place the bird on the debossed side of the folder, the side that forms like a little well. That way, when we run it through our die cutting machine, it presses perfectly into that space and gives you all that gorgeous raised detail on your focal point. Take a closer look at the detailed impression you get from this embossing folder. Let me compare it to a flat die cut piece here. Well, now you can use the die cut as is, but I definitely recommend running it back through the embossing folder to bring out all that gorgeous texture and dimension. It truly makes such a difference. Now, well, I wanted to keep my dove plain white, but I thought of adding a little bit of shading on just the bottom layers of the wings of this bird. I'm using flannel ink from the Positively Saturated Ink collection. It's the lightest shade of gray that I have in my stash, and it's perfect for adding just a whisper of color. Now I'm applying it with a very light hand using a small blending brush because I don't want the bird to take too much color. I really want most of that dove to stay bright white so it keeps that clean and peaceful look. But I do want the bird to stand out against our ink blended background, and adding this soft touch of gray gives it a perfect amount of shadow and definition. It's subtle, but it makes the embossed detail pop beautifully once the card comes together. Now, if ink blending isn't your preferred method, you can absolutely achieve a similar effect using light gray alcohol markers. Just a gentle touch along the edges or in the deeper embossed areas will give you that same soft shadowing and help your focal point really shine. Here's a closer look at that finished bird. I absolutely love how this turned out. Now, when you take a look at the ink blended dove with a plain white one, you can see the subtle difference, but it's really impactful. The plain white bird is clean and simple, but it can get a little lost once you place it on a colored or ink blended background. The version with that soft touch of flannel ink just has enough shading to bring out the embossed details, which is the wings, the feathers, and all those beautiful curves, and it looks absolutely stunning even if you plan on placing it on a white card panel. I'm planning on ink blending this entire panel with some bright vibrant blues, but before that I want to make sure my sentiment is stamped first. Now, since I love the combination of gold against deep blue, I chose to stamp my sentiment in gold embossing powder. Now, the sentiment reads, "A gift from my heart to yours." It's such a sweet, elegant message, and I wanted to place it very intentionally on that panel. So, first, I've positioned the sentiment right at that little opening between the dove and the delicate berry branches along the bottom. To get a perfect placement, I set my panel onto my Altenew stamp wheel, and then using my grid transparency sheet, I align the sentiment. Now, this definitely helps me double check that the sentiment is straight and centered before committing to the stamp. Now, because I'll be heat embossing, I prep the surface really well with my anti-static powder tool. This step is so important to keep stray embossing powder from sticking everywhere. Then I stamped the sentiment using clear embossing ink and sprinkled on that absolutely gorgeous gold embossing powder by Simon. I did stamp the sentiment twice just because I wanted to make sure that I had all the color and all of that embossing powder sticks to the stamped image. Now, you could definitely stamp this image in VersaFine Onyx Black ink, but that is something I would recommend after you do all of that gorgeous ink blending on this entire panel. Instead, we will be doing the embossed resist technique where we are first embossing our sentiment, heat embossing our sentiment, and then adding the ink. The embossed sentiment will resist all of that beautiful ink and will not be lost against that ink. This is an absolutely beautiful technique that I often love doing, especially with my background stamps or even my sentiments. Now, once everything was coated evenly, I heat set the powder with my heat gun, keeping the heat gun nice and hot and moving the whole time to prevent the panel from warping. And once it's done, just take a look at that beautiful gold shine. It sets tone perfectly for the rest of the card. Now it's finally time to add color to this absolutely gorgeous background. Around the holidays, I always find myself reaching for reds, greens, and blues, well, pairing them with gold. For today's card, I will be going in with a trio of stunning blue shades. They are all from the Positively Saturated Ink collection by Simon. We have Cadet, Royal, and Galaxy. My goal is to keep the center of the panel lighter, and then the color gradually deepens as it radiates outward, creating a soft glow in the middle and a rich dramatic edge all around the card panel. So I started with Cadet, which is a lighter shade in this trio. Once I get that down, I blend Royal, which starts to bring in more vibrancy and richness. And then I finished off with Galaxy, which adds that deep, moody blue purple tone, exactly the dramatic shading we want for a holiday background. Now I am adding all of these colors using my large Altenew blending brushes, and they make the process feel so effortless. They give such a smooth, even coverage, and honestly, the ink goes on like butter. The blending becomes super seamless, and the transition between the colors look absolutely flawless. And here's a look at that finished panel. Isn't it absolutely gorgeous? And I have to give a little shout out to my workspace setup as well. I'm using the Glassboard Studios magnetic glass mat, and I have been absolutely loving it. Ink blending on glass is such a breeze. The panel glides perfectly, and I can rotate it however I want while adding color. And cleanup could not be easier. A quick spritz of water and a wipe with a microfiber cloth, and the surface looks brand new again. With our blues down and blended beautifully, the background is already looking magical, and we still have more details to bring in. Our embossed die cut dove is going to sit in the exact same spot as the embossed dove on the background panel. It lines up perfectly, almost like a puzzle piece, snapping right into place. Now you can adhere it flat directly on the embossed area, but I wanted mine to have a bit more presence, so I added small foam tape under it to give it that nice little pop and dimension. Before adhering it, I just wanted to add a touch of color to the beak using an alcohol marker, and to finish off, I used black gel pen to darken the eye of the dove, which brings it to life absolutely beautifully. At this stage, you could absolutely stop here. Just adhere the dough onto the embossed panel, and with your sentiment already in place, the card would be completely finished. But as I was looking at the design, I felt it could use some little extra shine and sparkle to really elevate it. You could add some ink or paint splatters for that effect, and that's always a lovely option, but I wanted something a bit more delicate and elegant. So I decided to bring in a small accent in form of a leaf. I'm using the autumn arrangement die set for this by Simon, and again cutting it out using gold glitter cardstock by Your Paper Insider. Just the small addition adds a touch of sparkle without overwhelming the entire design. It catches the light beautifully and helps draw the eye across the card, balancing the composition and giving the whole project that extra polished and festive look. I'm absolutely in love with how the delicate gold leaf turned out. It adds just the right touch of sparkle and elegance to our design, and I think it pairs beautifully with a vibrant blue background. It also ties in perfectly with our gold embossed sentiment, creating a very cohesive and polished look across the entire card. Now, to secure everything in place, I first attached that tiny gold leaf near the beak of our dove using small drops of liquid glue. That is just enough to hold it gently without shifting. Now, since this is glitter cardstock, I did give it some time to dry completely before adhering the entire focal point. Now, once that was positioned perfectly, I adhered the dove back onto our embossed panel. Seeing the dove with that little golden accent in place really brings the design together and gives the card that finished professional feel. I peeled off the backing from all the little pieces of foam tape, and I like to add tiny bit of glue on top of the foam tape before sticking down the focal point. It gives me a little wiggle room to adjust everything perfectly before committing it to a panel. At this stage, I'm being extra careful because I don't want to risk messing up any of the details or placements. To make the placement easier and more precise, I like to use my reverse tweezers to hold the focal point. I find it gives me a much more control than trying to hold it directly with my fingers, especially when you're working with delicate elements. Now, after finishing, I also make sure to wipe away any stray ink that might have settled on our embossed sentiment. And with that, the card front is complete. All that is left to do is adhere it onto an A2 size card base, and our beautiful dimensional holiday card is ready to share. And with that, our card is ready. Just look at how stunning this card turned out. The vibrant, layered blues, beautifully embossed dove, that touch of gold in the leaf and sentiment, it all comes together so perfectly. I love how the subtle shadows and dimensional elements give it such a polished and professional feel, yet feels so warm and festive. Now, don't forget to check out the entire December release by Simon Says Stamp. There is absolutely so many fun and adorable projects. This month is full of inspiration and die cutting magic, and this card is a perfect example of how a few simple techniques and products can transform a project into something absolutely gorgeous. Well, I'm thrilled at how this turned out. I will have supplies to all the products that I used to create this absolutely beautiful card listed down in the description box below, along with the link to the latest December release. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.